Did Americans go to the moon in 1969, or was it all a hoax? Well, Greg Berlanti's new movie, Fly Me to the Moon, is all about that. I'm Adam, this is Does It Hold Up, and here's our review for that newest movie. Fly Me to the Moon stars Scarlett Johansson and Channing Tatum as two people who work for NASA in 1969. One of them is trying to build a rocket to get astronauts to the moon, while the other is trying to market the moon and create a fake landing so that they can win the space war against Russia. Greg Berlanti directed this pseudo-historical movie, and you'll know him better as the director of Love, Simon, or the man who created the entire Arrowverse, which is the DCCW universe on television, so he knows his way around telling, I guess, compelling stories is what you could call The Flash and Arrow. Sort of. But he does a really good job in this movie showcasing his talent as a director. He can set up a pretty shot. He can tell a pretty story. The biggest issue he has going in this one is maybe nobody was there to really reel him in. He lingers on shots maybe a little bit too long. Yes, they're pretty, but do I need a straight 30 seconds of it? Probably not. He doesn't know appropriately where to cut scenes when they've officially ended and we can transition to the new thing. Or he's cut out scenes in the editing room that probably filled in a little bit of the plot holes in this movie. But that doesn't really matter because the story here is what's going to pull your focus and keep you engaged the entire time. Since 1969, there have been people on both sides of the fence. Yes, we went to the moon. No, we didn't go to the moon. And there's evidence to support both. And this movie is going to give you an answer. Well, sort of. It's going to actually just further the argument a little bit more, which I think was the entire point of this. This is supposedly based on a true story from the character Mo Burks, played by Woody Harrelson in the movie, but because he wasn't there the entire time, maybe he doesn't know all of the details. He only knows the small pieces that he was there for. But maybe that's enough. Scarlett Johansson was absolutely amazing as Kelly Jones, the marketing professional who comes in to sell the idea of the moon to the general public so that NASA can get the funding it needs to support the mission. In fact, she makes this movie work more than anything else going on screen. She's so good in this movie, you're going to start to wonder why she isn't in more things like this. Why did she get saddled? And as good as she is as Black Widow in the Marvel Universe, she seemed to be saddled with that for so many years when we could have been using her talents in such better movies like this one. Channing Tatum is having a little bit of a renaissance here. It was like he disappeared out of the public eye for quite a while, especially after complete disasters like G.I. Joe, but it's really good to see him back. He was in a movie called The Lost City a couple years ago with Sandra Bullock, and he was amazing in that. He was also that same year in a movie called Dog, which is his movie. He has to bring that entire movie together, and he does. It's nice to see him getting this resurgence. Is he great in this movie? No, it's actually one of his poorer performances, but I think that's more based on what the character was supposed to be. He's a former military man who has dedicated his entire life to the service of America. And he's kind of one note and very flat. They do have wonderful chemistry together, him and Scarlett Johansson. So the pseudo love story that's kind of building around what's happening works on almost every level. There are moments where you're just like, why are you guys getting together? It doesn't really make sense here. But then a few scenes later, it kind of pulls it all back together. So it's a very up and down roller coaster, this movie, where you're going to hit very high highs, but it also has some very low lows. And the longer you think about this movie after watching it, the more you're going to be able to pick apart small details that just don't seem to work overall. But at the end of the day, if you nitpick a movie to death, any movie, none of them will be good. You just have to take the movie for what it is. And what this movie delivers on is a fantastic cast with an interesting story told from a different perspective than we've ever heard it before, and what amounts to a great movie. This is one that wasn't on my radar when it came out, which is absolutely insane because I love space. I love NASA. I would love to be an astronaut. But, we don't all get to live our dreams, so instead I get to watch great movies like Fly Me to the Moon about going to space. So earlier this year, I didn't even know this movie was coming out. It wasn't promoted very well, but I'm glad that I went and watched it. It was a really good movie that just seemed to work and know what kind of movie that it is. Don't expect it to be an Oscar winner. Don't expect it to be a $100 million, $200 million grosser. This movie is just a fun time at the theaters. So if you're looking for something to watch this weekend, I highly recommend Fly Me to the Moon, because who wants to go see Inside Out for a fourth time, or Despicable Me for a second time? Terrible movie. Don't go watch that one at all. So if you're looking for something just a little bit different in the midst of all this family-friendly fare, go check out Fly Me to the Moon. I don't think you're going to be disappointed. All right, thanks for joining me to review Fly Me to the Moon. Let me know in the comments below what you thought about the movie, if you've already seen it, or if you're going to go check it out. In the meantime, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, all that stuff that YouTube loves, because, we put out good videos every week. On Tuesdays, I do a box office breakdown that you don't want to miss. Let's see where Fly Me to the Moon ends up in that top 10. Until next week, just remember to be good to yourself, be kind to others, and as always, keep watching movies.